Hey everyone, Target 64 back here in the spring. Just getting ready to get the bike out and got a phone call from a buddy suggesting I better check my primary chain tensioner. As you guys all know, I got this thing off the dyno a couple years ago. Bike was making 150 square. After a few short trips on it, I pulled back in the driveway. I had a hell of a howling sound coming out of the primary. Upon inspection, found the stock tensioner ratchet up so tight you could play a tune on this chain. So my good old buddy, Night Train Dave out of Florida, suggested a tensioner that he was using that I should use. He said he's had it in there for about a couple thousand miles, no issues. He actually had bought 3 of them. So I ended up calling the company, ordering it. It came in, simplest thing to install it up, set it up, 1/8 gap across the bottom. There's just 3,000 miles on this bike now off this build. Next thing you know, Dave calls me back last fall, about November, said, hey, one of those tensioners let go. He said, on my Street Glide. He said I had to call the company up, and he said they sent me a brand new one, put it back in, seems to be okay. Well, 3 weeks ago, I get a phone call. Dave says, hey man, you got that bike out tearing up the streets yet? I said, no, Dave, still a lot of sand and salt on the roads up here in New York. I said, too much money tied up in this orange blossom to take her out and get it all rusted up. I said, as soon as it gets the roads off, gets a little cleaner in the roads, I'll take this thing out. Well, he says, hey, he said, you better pull that primary cover and check that tensioner. He says, riding the old Road Glide yesterday. Next thing you know, hear a bunch of noise in the primary, limped her home, got it apart. He said, same thing, the thing let go. So he said, I'm pissed. He said he called Evolution Performance. They told him to send the clutch in. It should be inspected. So he sent it in. Told me they had it about a week. He said, next thing you know, he said they had to repair the clutch. He said they had to rebuild it. I'm not sure what the total cost was, but he said it was expensive. So he said, before you take that thing for a ride, you might want to pull that cover and check it. I think it's a good idea. So him and I were discussing how some of the guys on the tech forums were tack welding the stock adjuster in place. And I said, that seems like a pain in the ass. I said, if you got to move it after, you got to grind the weld off, and the teeth are kind of flying down there. And he said, hey, he said, Evolution makes something called a bump stop. He says, call out there and talk to them guys. They'll tell you how it works. So I called out there and talked to Andre, and he suggested it works great, sold a lot of them. So I ordered it. It just came in on Friday. So this afternoon, I'll be taking this thing apart, checking things out, and setting this thing up with this bump stop. Let you guys know how it turns out. See ya. 64 back here with a stock chain tensioner out of my bike. And as you can see, here's the ramp with the teeth on it. I installed it in the bike and ended up having 3 lines showing, which gave me 3/8 chain deflection. So I went over to the other shop and machined off 2 lines on the Evolution bump stop. It drops in the front hole like this. Your bolt goes through. Basically what it does when the ramp goes in, it ramps up and it bottoms out against this bump stop. Can't go any further. And that installed back in the bike, it'll give you 3/8 of a deflection. We'll get it set up and we'll take a measurement and get back to you. See ya. Well, finally got the chain deflection set for 3/8 of an inch travel. Took a few tries, ended up taking the 3rd line off on the bump stop. Got the tensioner back in, bump stops installed, locked tight in the bolts, torqued to factory spec. Tape measure right here. I got 5 inches on the bottom of the chain. Bring her down, you got 1/8 of an inch. Bring her up, you got 1/4. Total deflection, 3/8 of an inch. The factory tensioner has got the springing action, so if you actually pull on it really hard, you got about 5/8 travel here, so we're good to go. We'll drop the primary cover back on. As far as the other tensioner, I never liked it from day one. You got to shim it out away from the primary case. You got to have some washers. If you don't, if it's pushed in too far, it's going to ride on this aluminum boss. But this thing's only got 3,000 miles on it, and I mean, you can see the grooves in her here. They're 1/8 of an inch deep, which really amazes me it wore that much in 3,000 miles. The factory one's got 10,000 miles on it. It showed very little use. So I believe, in my opinion, that if you got a bike making big power, these things very seldom go bad. The only thing is they ratchet up. Either tack weld it or install the bump stop. That's what I'm going with. See ya.